Section 12 of the Universal Religion, Bahaism, its Rise and Social Import. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Nicholas James Bridgewater. The Universal Religion, Bahaism, its Rise and Social Import, by Hippolyte DREYFUS-BARNEY. Section 12. Universal Peace. There are two means of attaining this: by the adoption of an international language, and the creation of tribunals of arbitration to regulate difficulties pending between nations. In the Kitāb al-Aqdas, as well as in a number of his earlier and later writings, Baha'u'llah exhorts the ministers of state to come to an agreement as to the employment of a universal language and writing, either by choosing one from amongst those already existing, or else by creating one artificially. By this means, international relations being facilitated, people will learn to know one another better, and consequently to love one another. The institution of tribunals of arbitration to suppress the causes which determinate war between nations is connected with the prerogatives of a special council called Baytul Adl, or House of Justice, about which we shall speak later on. However, it is important to note that, long before these ideas had taken form amongst us, long before the protagonists of the international auxiliary language had recruited adepts from amongst all civilized nations, more than 20 years before the Tsar had thought of assembling the first Hague Conference, at a time when the Bab himself had sometimes excused the use of arms for the propagation of religion, Baha'u'llah had made these high principles the one basis of his dispensation. We have commanded the most great peace, which is the greatest means for the protection of mankind. The rulers of the world must, in one accord, adhere to this command, which is the main cause for the tranquility and security of the world. Note Baha'u'llah, Tablet of Ishraqat, page 34. End note. The Bahais have carried obedience to this principle so far, remembering that their Prophet had said, "It is better for you to be killed than to kill," that the fanatical population of Persia, excited by its mullahs, have been able at different times during the last few years to make odious attacks against them, without their even wishing to take up arms in self-defense, although often they had a numerical advantage. It is alone this attitude of the Bahais which has put an end to the terrible religious wars which up to 1852 stained Persia with blood. The universal peace has besides been the aim of Baha'u'llah all his life. He incessantly returns to this point, that all nations should become one in faith, and all men as brothers, that the bonds of affection and unity between the sons of men should be strengthened. What harm is there in this? Yet so it shall be. These fruitless strifes, these ruinous wars shall pass away, and the most great peace shall come. Note C. E. G. Brown, A Traveller's Narrative, page 40. End note. Thus he spoke in the month of April 1890, 2 years before his death, to Professor E. G. Brown of Cambridge University, who had come to see him in prison at Acca. This peace between the nations is not all, It should coincide with internal peace and prosperity, when the struggle between classes will cease, and when state administration will be confided to competent agents. The fifth ishraq, effulgence, is that governments must be acquainted with the conditions or deserts of the officials, and must confer upon them dignity and positions in accord with men's due measure and merit. To have regard for this matter is obligatory and incumbent on every chief and ruler. Thus, perchance, traitors shall not usurp the place of trustworthy men, or spoilers occupy the seat of guardians. Note Baha'u'llah, Tablet of Ishraqat, page 35. End note. Do we not see there the essential, though oft disregarded rule, which, to the exclusion of every other consideration, should preside over the nomination of officials? O people of God, exalted be His glory, ask God to guard the sources of power and authority, rulers et al., against the evil of egotism and lust, and to illumine them with the lights of justice and guidance. Note Words of Paradise, page 50, Chicago, 1906. End note. Although these principles can be put into practice in all countries and under all rules, it appears by the perusal of these books that, in Baha'u'llah's judgment, the form of government best adapted for these conditions, to assure to nations the benefits of peace externally and of prosperity internally, is a constitutional monarchy, with a representative parliament. Thus the advantages of wise deliberation would be added to those which result from responsible authority. In a letter written to Queen Victoria in the early days of Acca, Baha'u'llah congratulates her on her submission to the decision of Parliament. Thereby the basis of the edifices of affairs is made firm, and the hearts of those who are under thy shadow, that is, protection, both high and low, are made tranquil. But it behoves them, note, alludes to the system of representative government, end note, to be as trustees among the servants of God, and to regard themselves as guardians over whomsoever is in all the earth. And farther on, we ask God that He will help the kings to be at peace. Verily, He is able to do what He willeth. O assembly of kings, verily we see you increasing your expenditure every year, and placing the burden thereof on your subjects. This is naught but manifest injustice. Fear ye the sighs of the oppressed and his tears, and do not burden your subjects above that which they can bear, neither ruin them to build up your places. Choose for them that which ye choose for yourselves. Thus do we expound unto you that which will profit you if ye are of those who inquire. Note Suratul Muluk, see Journal of the Royal Asiatic Society, Volume 21, New Series, pages 969, etc. End of section 12.